without
Sorry, Braxton.
My thoughts
I'll let you
are,
fight it out. Rock, paper, scissors. Yeah.
There we go. My thought on that is, based on the court's instructions, they lay out what reasonable doubt is. And I think the defense was pretty good at saying, if this happened, that's reasonable doubt. Like, if you think that this is a possibility of happening, that's reasonable doubt. There's one thing they proved in this case, and that is that there is reasonable doubt. That is what the state proved.
And it was snowing.
Yes.
Yeah. And
even that's in dispute. Well, Vicky, what were you saying?
I'd also like to bring up Massachusetts' instruction on reasonable doubt is quite serious to a degree of, moral certainty. That's quite serious when you lay that out in words and look at that. And you have to think to yourself as a juror, okay, morally, can I convict this woman on this where there is nothing but craziness, chaos? Let me see if I can keep this clean. Chaos and craziness going on in this trial. If I was a juror, you could get, I think I could get someone to swing not guilty easier than guilty. I would hang this jury for sure if I was on this jury, without a doubt. There's just, you would have to prove exactly what the state said, in my opinion, or the Commonwealth. And it doesn't seem probable. And Lally bringing up in the end, whatever you call it, when they bring up something right last minute of, his arm was bent this way. That just pissed me off more than anything if I'm on the jury.
That was his response to all the best. Wow, my shirt looks great on this. That is his response to all the best of the experts that we had from the defense. We have like these rocket scientists literally building cannons and reenacting this accident. And his response was, "Oh yeah, well, what if his arm was bent like this?"
Right.
And that's all he brought. It's like you didn't address anything else.
If you listen to the ARCA guy, when he said and explained so well the way that the arm moves, it still would probably do the same thing. You still would have your arm rotating in. You still, in the fact that they were really going in on it he was thrown 30 feet. Really? By his arm getting hit?
Both thrown 30 feet. And I'm telling you, you pick them up, picking a spoon. Like, I'm not kidding. It is gruesome. And that did not fit. Like, there's just no way.
Let alone driving in reverse at 24.5 miles an hour in the snow. That alone is like Superwoman to me. That's crazy.
I wanted
the pirouette.
The pirouette, yes. Somebody on X did like a little, they put it to like Dance of the Sugar Plum Players or something, and they've got Alan Jackson doing his pirouettes move over and over, so it looks like he's just spinning. Oh, it's hilarious. I want to get into the car data. I need like Brandy to help me out, because the car data and the timestamps, it has key cycles that aren't referenced to timestamps. Okay. Which is problematic because they've got a scenario. The state has a scenario that works. Okay, a 3-point turn, the reversing and everything. But
here's my issue with that. The key cycles. Immediately, my first thing was, this is the incorrect key cycle. From the get-go, when they started that testimony, the guy literally said a key cycle is starting the car and then turning it off. That is a key cycle. Never in his testimony did he say, maybe, I don't know when it's recorded, blah, blah, blah. No, immediately my thing was, well, this is the wrong key cycle, because there's more than one key cycle between them getting the car. She had to, after the fact, it would have been her getting to John's place.
They would have to leave the car running on the flatbed.
It would have had to have
they would have had to do something really strange that a tow driver probably is not going to do. And the whole it's a key cycle versus an ignition cycle. It's an electric ignition. Okay?
Yes,
They're one and the same in this car.
it immediately put my head into, oh, so they did even more messing with evidence in my head. I mean, it had already been proven that they were, pretty corrupt. And all it did was say, oh, so we also tried to go through and do data and screw with your head even more, because that's all it did to me. That's just, yeah, I'm from Southern Louisiana, by the way.
You just got picked up by your accent.
Yeah.
I
Love it.
think that
So
potentially they might have had a good case if they had not said the bent arm thing. Because I can see, like, if he's leaning, he's obviously very drunk. She's very drunk. He's leaning over, getting sick. She hits his head, hits a specific part that is enough to knock him out. Then he lands up lying there. Nobody notices because he was bent over on the ground, etc. Maybe you could have led me there. But,
So you don't think she would have known that she hit him? Is that what you're saying?
well, she was super drunk.
She was quite intoxicated.
I mean,
Yeah,
she
yeah,
had
that- I'm just
9
trying-
drinks. That's
Right.
a lot. I think
Might
that
have been.
she potentially could have actually just literally forgotten everything that happened, because there's also a gap. She says, I got there and then I was looking at my phone and then I turned and drove home. What's happening in that time? Like, she's very consistent with details, and then there's a bit of fuzzy, and
And that
that's strange. They could have leaned into that and said, well, why is it fuzzy only there? You know every single thing, when you walked up the stairs, who was there, etc. But you don't know the few minutes when this allegedly happened. That's a pretty big time to be fuzzy.
Latecomer Ivan, Mr. Wisconsin. Welcome. Good to have you. Ivan's got his own YouTube channel that he only goes live when I'm sleeping. I don't know. I don't know. One day I'll be on it.
Can you hear me?
If anybody has to go, just
Oh.
wave and disconnect. Don't feel like I'm keeping you here against your will or for any reason. Yeah, we can hear you, Ivan. What's your thoughts here? Give us a brief synopsis.
I think I've been mulling over it, and I do believe that it's a bummer, man. I think she's going to be found guilty, and that bums me out. I don't believe it. I don't think the requirements of evidence was presented, but I just sort of, for the reasons I mentioned briefly on the stream yesterday, where I don't know that anybody on that jury wants to live in that town after being the people who set cop killer free. And I think that pressure and that weight of it's not a tiny town, but it seems to be pretty tight knit. And I think that's real. And I think that once you start getting into emotional responses, I think things like her saying, I did it, I think those things while they don't have much evidentiary value or much concrete value, I think those things weigh on people when they start thinking about the rest of their lives. And I know that that's not what they should be thinking about when they're in the jury room, but I don't know that you can separate that, completely. So I don't think she should be found guilty. I think the Alberts' negligence of their animal is what caused this. I still feel like, even though it's sort of an outrageous situation, I think that he probably was chased by the dog and slipped and whacked his head, and that's why
So
he's
no
got
fights.
claw marks. Yeah. So
Let me, since you're wearing a Miller High Life shirt, I thought it would be appropriate to address this question from chat, Ivan.
Oh,
Says, Recovered Act, can you talk about all the officers were drunk and driving? Makes me so mad these guys are not suspended.
that's a blow, man. Blow.
What's crazy is it's all the young people who were not drinking and driving in this situation that
Yeah,
had.
they were the ones that getting the Ubers or had a
right,
designated driver. All the old ones, they knew they could handle their liquor. They knew 7 drinks was their max, and at 6 they can drive home. It's 0.28 was what John O'Keefe was at. Karen was right up there. A lot of the police officers were
the
quite up
worst of
there.
it was it Higgins that went out drinking in his car? Was it Higgins? This is the thing. There's so much that happened in this trial, but one of the Higgins, I think it was Higgins that went out with one of the Alberts, where the gun was left behind in the badge.
Mhm. Called the next day. Did I leave my badge and gun in the car?
Yeah.
What did you do in the car where you lost
What
your?
were you-
Never mind. I don't want to.
What
I'm
were
not
you
gonna
doing
ask
out
that
in your
question.
cruiser drinking? Like that's.
Yeah.
I just wanted to ask one thing because I noticed this in closing. Lally said I hit him 4 times. Is it me, or wasn't it 3 that the people were saying? Wasn't it? I
He
hit
added
him.
up
I hit him. I
everyone's
hit him.
he added up everyone their testimony and stuck it together. I think the most we heard was one person said 3 times, but I think he did get like 4 in there.
I mean, even that testimony, that just doesn't get me there because that can be phrased as a question. I hit him. I do understand where Ivan's coming from. I was concerned about that if they were going to come out with a verdict yesterday. I was concerned it was going to be guilty. However, with them taking time, I have confidence that they're going to get it right. And I don't know if these people are from Canton, but it seems like, Karen has a lot of support from her fellow, or not fellow. I mean, she's not from Canton, but seems like she has quite a bit of support.
She's not a townie.
Do we
Right.
know? Do we know if her support is more local or if it's more of an accumulation of sort of an online following? Because I guess I haven't seen anything from people locally supporting her as much as I've seen. So I mean, I've seen them show up at the courthouse for sure, but just because you're at the courthouse doesn't mean you're from there. People will drive a whole long way just to be part of something, good or ill. So I'm just wondering if her support is localized or what. I would like to know what the locals seem to think. I'm sure there's people on both sides regardless, but
to that, Ivan, I'm sure there's some true crime tourism going on in there. They've had like 1,000 people out there cheering for her today outside the courthouse. But if you look at the Canton Select Board meeting that we started the day off watching, these were the locals. These are the people from Canton, and there are a lot of people in there that were wearing the free care, and they identified as being from Canton. So I think there is some ground support. I'm not sure if it's support for Karen as much as there are a lot of people that are really upset with the police department, and this was like the last straw for them. But I think there's a fair amount of local for her.
Do you think in not guilty? Do you think a hung jury would mean they retry? I think they have to retry it just because of the nature of the victim. I think they'd have to retry it as many times as it took if it was a hung jury. What do you think?
It's my understanding that the federal investigation is still ongoing. Is that correct? Into this, so I would be surprised if it come back as a hung jury. I'd be surprised if it went back to court before that federal investigation wraps up, whichever way it goes. And if it does, as some Canton people believe, that federal investigation ends with federal indictments of officials and police officers and things like that. That would definitely change the direction of the court.
But also, lawyers always say that there is seldom a hung jury. It's always like, don't bank on the hung jury. It barely ever happens. And now we've seen 5, I think, since I joined.
We've seen quite a few.
We've picked some winners, though.
This is one where I could see it. If, like I said, if I was on that jury, those 11 others could tell me whatever they wanted. I am hanging this jury. I'm not changing my mind on it. There's no way, morally, when we start bringing in morals, I don't think I could send this woman to prison for murder, any type of murder. For an OUI, absolutely. You can have it on that. But everything else, no.
Let's try to pry into the mind of the jury just a little bit. Allison, you've been quiet, so I'm going to put you on the spot here. Hang on one second. I'll take this. I'll ask you a question first, and while I'm answering this call, I'm going to listen to your answer. The jury asked for the CERT report which is the state emergency response team or evidence collection team or something like that. It's the state investigators that came down and found all the pieces of taillight. And they dug through, they shoveled through the yard. What do you read into the jury's mindset by that question, if anything? And then if somebody else wants to chime in, feel free.
Okay, so first of all, I think I actually missed watching that portion of it. So what did the jury think about that? Gosh, I don't know. The pieces of the taillight make no sense to me, in my opinion, and maybe that is because I watched it in choppy bits. But if I were on the jury and I'm not a mathematician, the math isn't mathing, and I just can't wrap my head around it. So I don't know. Maybe I just wouldn't be a good juror, but I just think that's good.
Is it any problem to you that the 2 pieces became 5 pieces, or the logs? Is that an issue as far as evidence for you?
For me, yeah. Because it doesn't make sense to me.
Anybody else?
I think they could potentially be looking for adding up the timeline and the measurements as well. How many steps he took, where they found him, the tail light, the glass, the snow, and just trying to see if there's actually anything that matches up, and if there's anything that they could say, okay, well, both sides agree on this one thing, and take it from there. Because yes, the tail light was strange, but also where he was, how many steps he took from the car to that point, or to the door, whichever side you want to look at. If they specifically want that report, there's something that was captured on that first day. I feel like I didn't watch a lot of the beginning because all everyone was talking about in every testimony was the tail light, the tail light, the tail light. I think I know about the tail light. The things that I'm not sure about is more what the scene looked like and where he was in relation to everything else.
Okay.
Did they have the phone data for when he was supposed to be flying through the air? Because that would have been tracked, and that would have shown him moving from one place to another place really quickly.
The Superman jump.
Yeah.
I'm sorry to laugh, but it would be funny.
I think all we got were steps. We only got steps.
For my thought, if I
no
wanted
huge leaps.
Yeah. And also climbing up and down 3 flights of steps. Let's not forget about that. I would say if it was my perfect jury and I was on that jury, the reason I'm asking for that cert report is because we already decided we're doing not guilty. But what we're doing is doing our due diligence and going through and making sure we didn't miss something. And I mean, maybe another way is, can we see how many pieces were found on that first time? Because that's where it starts to get muddy. You're finding pieces every single time. I mean, it seems like they were taking field trips to 34 Fairview every single day, like it was, some type of mausoleum of some
sort. It's like going
sort.
to an arrowhead hunt. He's like, hey, we plowed the field. There's fresh arrowheads to be found. You guys come check out. Got tail light for everybody, and nothing to spare.
It's unreal, just unreal how many times they went.
It was. Let me welcome Ada. Ada Brown, thank you very much. Welcome. I have, for all of you, I've turned on the setting that allows you to restream this on your end, on your channel. I know several of you have your own channels. I don't know how that works. You might have to drop out and come back in, but if you need to, you're welcome to do that. I just wanted to make everyone aware that's cool. So if you see this streamed on Ivan's channel or Vicky's or Ada's or something, that's why. Through StreamYard, it lets you do that. It lets both sides stream it on their own channels. And if anyone else wants to join, feel free. The description of this video has a link that allows you to to
We
connect.
need some guilty people in here. Like